My lords, it's not yet your time, but it could be. Today we'll be looking at the end of the cycle and its accompanying origin, the Endbringers. We'll also look at the new Entropy Drinkers civic and a new addition to Espionage, the Proxy Wars, which is linked to the new Secret Society civic. But we'll start with the Endbringers. The Endbringers are a challenging and doomed origin. A mysterious calamity has turned a neighbouring planet into a shrouded world, and your people have been cursed with a sense of foreboding and growing paranoia ever since. This is our first glance at the Endbringers, and they appear to be the opposite to the Mind Wardens, who we discussed last week. Remember that the Mind Wardens are a very anti-psionic species. The Endbringers have clearly gone down a different path, according to their origin text. We are the harbingers of cataclysm. During the dawn of our civilization, a mysterious calamity befell our nearest celestial neighbour. Its sudden and brutal transformation filled the night skies with a malevolent purple light, stirring within our people a dread that we will one day suffer a similar fate. With each passing generation, the suffocating fear of potential annihilation has tightened its grip upon us. Now, as we take to the stars, we are drawn to explore this shrouded world. The answers which we have craved for centuries are tantalizingly within reach. Still, many among us warn our obsessive fascination with the source of this power may lead us to our end. Soon enough, we will lift the final veil. Upon starting with this empire, you'll get the following event. Exploratory satellites orbiting onerous descent have identified a promising target for our first crewed mission to the surface of this shrouded world. The landing zone emanates a strange radiation that ripples across the planet and is carried forth on ultraviolent winds. There are many of us who protest against this mission in fear of unleashing the same curse upon our own homeworld. Their concerns are not without justification, but the overriding need to understand this distant phenomenon must take precedence. If we are fated to one day suffer the same fate, at least we will die knowing why. That's certainly a fantastic introduction to the origin, and I am looking forward to playing this one and bringing you guys the story. I hope it's going to be a banger. The Endbringers start with a unique mechanic, paranoia. This reduces happiness by 5% and can stack all the way up to 50% if left untreated, but it does seem that we can stem this tide with a building called the Chamber of Silence. The Chamber of Silence is unique to Endbringers and replaces the normal Psi-Core psionics get access to. I must admit, upon reading Chamber of Silence more than once, all I want to say is Chambers of Secrets over and over again. A childhood on Harry Potter, if you will. But I digress. Endbringers soon discover an archaeological dig site upon the shrouded world. This will provide few answers, but will guide us towards our dark patron. As a madness-consumed doomsday cult, our journey through psionic ascension will differ a little bit more than conventional paths. They won't need an ascension perk to ascend psionically, which is quite nice, because this decision was made for us long ago. Speaking of which, Endbringers will also get unique approaches to dealing with psionic ascension, for example, forsaking the flesh, which allows us to sacrifice some of our people for a massive situation speed bonus. Their entry into the shroud proper will be different as well, since we've already been claimed by a patron. It is here that we will meet the cataclysmic entity, the end of the cycle, and forming this covenant will change our conventional shroud UI into a ticking clock, counting down the moments until we end the story. As the cycle progresses, you will gain more covenant powers, including some that let you stall for time, and powers that reduce the end of the cycle situation process. Powers that reduce the end of the cycle situation process can only be used once per game, and while the end is patient, it is relentless. It appears that we get access to a heap of these psionic powers. 8 of them are teased here, along with the aura of the end. Let's go through some of these powers. First we have creation. For the low cost of 10,000 energy credits, we can create a Gaia world with 1,000 pops in our capital system. That's already amazing, in our own capital system as well. I mean, incredible. Next we have annihilation. This effect reduces the end of the cycle situation progress by 60 and costs 9,000 of energy credits, minerals, food, and alloys. So based on this, I'm assuming that as the situation progresses, eventually the clock will run out and the end of the cycle will, I'm guessing, eat us. This obviously reduces that progress somewhat, but perhaps we can only use this one once. Fractalization increases mining station output and resource station output within our psionic aura by 100%, and there doesn't appear to be a time limit on that either. Maybe that stacks or lasts forever, or maybe we can only use it once, I'm not sure. We have extermination. This will kill 3,000 of our own citizens, but reduce the situation progress by 120, which is significant comparing it to the resource one above. Distortion will allow our fleets to hyperjump at twice the range without suffering any negative effects for the next 2 years. That could be rather powerful indeed. Destruction. An owned colony with at least 1,500 pops will become a shrouded world. That could be incredibly significant. Imagine you have a 30,000 population Ecumenopolis, which suddenly gets deleted. Well, that will reduce your situation progress by minus 180, so I assume that's a really all or nothing button. Intensification will increase psionic aura intensity by 50 and disable all shroud seals in the galaxy for 3 years. That could be incredibly substantial. And finally, eradication. This declares war with a total war casus belli against all non-fallen empires. And this reduces the situation by a whopping 240. Some of these powers look really, really interesting to use, and we also will have a unique psionic aura. This is called the Aura of the End. This is looking like it increases mining station output and research station output by 100%, and will have empire-wide effects of increasing mining station and research output again, ship upkeep, and resources from jobs, all being positive effects. What it will also do as a hostile effect is monthly hull damage to non-orbiting ships. That is insane. It will reduce stability by 12 on planets and increase upkeep from jobs. Going back to the monthly hull damage to ships, it does say non-orbiting ships, so one assumes that if they're docked at a starbase they won't lose their hull, but monthly damage to ships is absolutely brutal. If you've ever tried to fight a bulwark empire or in specific cosmic storms, ticking damage on your hull is just devastating. Should you blanket enough of the galaxy in this Aura of the End, will be permitted to rest in a perfect universe, whatever that means. But should you fail, the reckoning will consume you. Incidentally, we're also told that the Endbringers are not the only way to form a covenant with the end of the cycle. The old way of encountering them still conventionally exists, and this will also switch your Shroud UI over to the ticking clock, but won't change your Psy-Core option. So I assume that the weight is still quite similar. If memory serves, currently it's a 1% chance to roll the end of the cycle, but you can increase that by being genocidal, or the Knights of the Toxic God origin and messing with the Trickster. There are a few different ways you can do it. I think you can also increase it up all the way up to 10% with the Nemesis Become the Crisis Ascension perk. End of the cycle looks really cool. Endbringers, I'm really hoping for a solid story there. It seems like it's set up fantastically well. Maybe we're told why they were picked, who knows, but I'm looking forward to that one. Moving on, we're going to look at the Entropy Drinkers and its variant civics. The Entropy Drinkers civics enable the transfer of life energy from the populace to the Empire's leaders. Already it sounds lovely and dystopian. So looking at the civic itself, this society drains valuable metabolism from idle population via parasitic psychic connections. Once properly collected, these energies can be redistributed to the more important classes, and this civic will block all ascension paths except for psionic. Empires with these civics will get access to specific edicts, which we'll look at shortly, and then they'll suffer some quite brutal modifiers. Reduce all jobs by 10%, research speed by 10%, pop growth speed by 10%, mechanical pop speed by 10%, leader upkeep and leader lifespan, however, will decrease by 50% and increase by 50%. So they're living longer and they're cheaper. Your leaders, that is. So that's an interesting civic. Leaders will also start with the psychic trait, and you can construct something called a leeching tower, whatever that is. The Megacorp variant and the Hive variant looks largely the same, just with the flavor text changed. These empires possess edicts that further empower their leaders by siphoning additional life energy from the populace. The Convergence of Will edict has both unity and 0 upkeep, and having plenty of energy thralls will reduce pop growth speed penalties of these edicts. So looking into the edict, we have energy drain, which is leaders never die of old age, but you're reducing pop growth speed by another 36%. You think we're already reducing it by 10%, that's substantial. Sanguine Council will reduce pop growth speed by another 16%, but council agenda speed will be quicker. And Convergence of Will decrease population speed by 56%, but increase councillor skill by 3. I'm not really sure what they were thinking with this. Clearly this is going to be very focused on your leaders. The idea being you're going to have potentially the best leaders in the galaxy. They're going to be absolute god tier. But wow, will they be standing on the corpses of your people? You could potentially see minus 100% pop growth speed here. Your people aren't going to be growing, and I guess the only way to combat this is going to be to steal other people's pops. I wonder if a good RP empire design here would be not to necessarily take the life of your own people, but to try and funnel the life of slaves into your leaders. At least I wouldn't feel quite so bad then. But it does open up really good avenues of roleplay. Will this be a meta civic? I don't know. I don't know how good the leaders are going to be coming out of this, but it certainly does open up good avenues for roleplay. And to be fair, we don't know what the leeching tower does yet, so maybe that offsets this somehow. Moving on to proxy wars and secret societies. This is something I'm genuinely really looking forward to, and it was completely under the radar. It seems like we're going to get a minor espionage update here. Espionage is perhaps one of the most underwhelming mechanics in the entire game, so seeing it get some attention is fantastic. Proxy wars will allow empires to incite conflict between other civilizations via the diplomacy menu. This requires high trust or infiltration, with potential diplomatic consequences if discovered. Proxy wars will require trust or infiltration and influence to trigger. When starting a proxy war, you can select the appropriate casus belli you wish to manipulate the attacker into using, though some will cost more influence and/or trust or infiltration than the others. So looking at the war screen, we can see that we're trying to start a proxy war. It will cost us 60 influence and 30 trust by the looks of things. The actual result of the war looks like the attacker gains control of any claimed systems and generates 33% less threat for each conquered system. In general, when manipulating other nations, it's best to select a cause for war that corresponds with their inherent biases and desires, so they seek to achieve their war goals rather than accepting a status quo early. The Secret Society Civic will grant earlier access to proxy wars and introduce covert actors who will try and influence galactic affairs from the shadows. This is a really good point, so it seems that all empires will get access to proxy wars, not just those with the Civic. And speaking of the Civic, we have secret societies and influential cartel, which is the Megacorp version. With secret societies, a cabal of elite and secretive figures, we've complicated political threads behind the scenes of the society, intertwining eternal affairs with those of other worlds. Clandestine factions will emerge after contacting other empires, and this will start with the ability to conduct a proxy war. The Civic gives the following modifications. It will reduce the influence cost of a proxy war by 25% and reduce the operation cost by 50%. It will increase the number of available envoys by 1 and will increase your encryption by 1. Importantly, the Civic cannot be manually added or removed after the game. The mysterious factions are revealed upon establishing communications with their contacts, and each is driven by priorities markedly different from standard factions. I'm really excited to see how this plays out. It's a bit vague, I think, based on the information that we've given. How useful will this actually be? I'm not sure, but I'm really intrigued to see the possibilities. The other thing it makes me think of is the renowned Paragon, Keisha. I remember when Paragons was launched, she was one that was generally quite popular with the community before we really understood the mechanics of Paragons and how it all worked. Given her espionage abilities, maybe it brings her back into the fold slightly. I'm not sure, but I certainly hope it does. And that's all, folks. I'll potentially see you on Thursday for the final dev diary. If not, I hope everyone has a great launch with Shadows of the Shroud.